Hey folks, how are you? Richard Cameron here. You know that because you're on this page. Not coming from Camp Cameron today, just coming from a few kilometers down the road. I'm actually next to a highway here. You'll probably hear the noise of the vehicles going over the bridge. But it's a nice little spot to get away at, and not too many people around because I'm the only person here today, sitting on a picnic table. Anyways. You know, yesterday I brought up some things, it's touchy to a couple of people actually, but that's okay. Makes them think, right? Makes people think a little bit. And I am just amazed, and you probably are too, at the number of folks that keep getting everybody else's business, right? They know what's better for everybody else. They're the people who are going to do it. They're going to take just what we'll call information that has been manufactured for mass consumption. I call it highly processed, like highly processed food, kind of like junk food. A lot of junk information floating around. But to some people, you know, as I say, Kentucky Fried Chicken, Taco Bell, and McDonald's ends up being the staples of life in their dietary choices. And sometimes we look at these things that have been put together for mass consumption to kind of rule the day for people in that way. They've lost control of the ability of critical thinking to evaluate data, real data, and make decisions on their own. So they've given the powers to other folks to manipulate their lives in a way that creates, call it homogeneous activity, but isn't necessarily the best, you know, as you know, on that side. As I said, if there's more information that goes on out there, I mean, it's like, wear your mask, do your thing, wash your hands. Yeah, I get it, right? Those maybe got some positive things, but I hear very little people say, hey, lose 10 pounds. Because we know people who reduce their weight, lower their glycemic stress and index, have a way lower level of susceptibility of serious complications from this virus. It's just a fact. But, you know, we can't tell people to take care of themselves. We're going to tell you the things that you should do, you know, for, call it a social, harmonious, in tune thing. Good or bad, doesn't really matter. That's the thing. So I come back to this because it also comes back to these principles. And the principles I mentioned yesterday, Benjamin Franklin. Now I know most people don't know much about Ben Franklin, haven't paid much attention to it. You know, the little things, okay, guy flying a kite with the key and, you know, electricity. But Benjamin Franklin was quite a guy. You know, he was a scientist. He was an inventor. He was a philanthropist. He was an economist. He was a futurist. He was just call it a thought leader of the day, but he always put those sort of things into action. And he had his critics in the day. You know what a great number of those critics were about? You know what? Usually came from overseas, like from France and England. You know what it was? Is people really had a problem with his optimism. He was an optimistic guy. And anyways, if you want to look at something really interesting, look up the Benjamin Franklin Endowment. You know, a year before he died, he gave, I think it was 1,000 pounds to Boston and to Philadelphia, I think, 1,000 pounds, whatever that was equivalent that way. Maybe it was equivalent to about $2,500 to $3,000 or something in the day. And, but with some rules on there, and it was from these endowments that countless, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of apprentices and journeymen and institutions have grown up from this. And in fact, the Benjamin Franklin legacy from over 200 years ago still lives on today. That he's created an environment where his legacy goes on. And again, he was scoffed at, but go ahead, look it up. Just look up Benjamin Franklin Endowment, and you'll see the history on that. So I just wanted to pass this along because I think it's important. I think it's important that you understand these. And this is from his book, The Way to Wealth. Again, you can look that up, probably get online. But it's just 4 key things that I took from it, 4 key points on this. And it's important that you understand this. And it's important only if you decide that you gotta own your life, okay? Own your dash. Okay, got it? Got it. So number one, and again, his words, I'm reading it from this, his words come from the colloquialisms of the day, the speech of the day. So this is going to sound pretty familiar. The taxes are indeed very heavy, but we have many others much more grievous to some of us. So the taxes, they were heavy. There are a lot of taxes. Okay, we are just getting taxed. That you hear that today? Your bottom of your paycheck and the top line of your paycheck look like two completely different worlds. Yeah, but this is the thing. But many others much more grievous to some of us. We are taxed twice as much by our idleness. Okay, our idleness, that time, that extra time that we have, that time that we devote to all the other things, our video games, our Netflixes, all the sort of just laying around daydreaming, all the different things. Little bits of those are fine, but it is when that becomes the habit of the day, the idleness of the day. We're not putting ourselves to work and doing the things, that's a problem. So we're taxed twice as much by our idleness, 3 times as much by our pride. Folks, oh, how are people going to look at us? Oh, my thing. What happens if I go? What happens if I actually decide to resolve to create wealth and independence for myself? What's that going to look like? How are people going to perceive the way that I'm doing it? Oh, my goodness. How is it? As a very famous doctor, a colleague of mine, very well published. You've probably seen her on TV, various things, PBS specials, all these sorts of things when she was asked, why don't we have a great number more doctors that are entrepreneurial, that are actually freedom, that can actually break free from their practices and stuff? And she says, well, frankly, it's just because they're too socially sophisticated. They're more concerned about how they're perceived as a doctor rather than the things that they can do as a doctor. Yeah, that's kind of interesting, but things that way. But 3 times as much by their pride, and 4 times as much by our folly. Okay, our folly. You know what that word means, but the bottom line is all the different things, all the ways, all the waste, all the pieces, all the keeping up with the Joneses, all the other things, the incredible, ways that you can go on vacation, fly now and pay later, all those sorts of things that go on. So twice as much by our idleness, 3 times as much by our pride, and 4 times as much by our folly. Okay? That's indeed a huge point today. Second one I took from that, diligence is the mother of good luck. Diligence. Paying attention, looking at some of the details, making sure that where you are and where you're going are in line. Okay? Are there. That you haven't put your ladder against the wrong wall. That all those hours and things and stuff and things, the way that you're spending your time is directly aligned with the objectives that you're setting out to do. And you're doing the things well that you're paying. It is. It's the diligence is the mother of good luck. That's it. Oh, you're lucky. Cameron, you're lucky you didn't have to work anymore after you were 50. What's that all about? Well, you know what? There was diligence involved. Yeah. But this is about you, not about me. Number 3, big time. Drive thy business, not let it drive thee. Drive your business. You control your business. Your business isn't controlling you. You're not a slave to the business. It's not a business that requires over and over again. And I've met so many, as I call it, small business folks that they can't break free from their business for an extended period of time. They couldn't leave it alone and go away for 6 months and take their kids and world school them. They couldn't do it without it falling apart. Okay? Drive thy business, not let it drive you. So, what are the things you're putting in place in order to do that, you small business folks? What are you doing in order to do that? Is your business model one that's going to allow you for you to drive the business? I don't mean showing up and writing the paychecks and doing the things and opening the doors and closing the doors and turning off the lights. I mean you really driving your business to a point in which you know that you have an escape mechanism that in 2, 3, 4 years that you could literally have it running for you rather than you running for it all the time. Got it? And number 4, big one. The borrower is a slave to the lender and the debtor to the creditor. Disdain that chain. Preserve your freedom and maintain your independence. Be industrious and free. Be frugal and free. Again, all the messages, all the things that are around you and me on an ongoing basis. You know, hey, buy this car. Hey, you can now extend your payments for 60, 72 months. Right? And the first 4 months or 5 months are free. Just come on in and take our car. Or, hey, you can buy a bigger house now because the interest rates are lower. So go buy a bigger house and indeed, enslave yourself to your home and to your car and to your credit cards and to all your things. Go ahead and enslave yourself so you'll know that for the next 40 years or 30 years or 20 years or 10 years or whatever it is, right, that you must be a slave to your debtor, that you become its servant. You become a servant of the debt, not in service to yourself and to others. Happens over and over again. And in today's, I call it social fabric of, hey, look what I got, look at the things. If I see more boats and more snowmobiles and more jet skis and more stuff parked in driveways and do the things, but then I see those cars roll out each and every day. I mean, each and every day. Here it is in the middle of the summer. In fact, next week I'm going to go spend a few days up on a lake with some friends. Just cool off. Nice, crystal clear lake. Quite amazing. But anyways, yeah, people say, well, I got my 1 week vacation or 2 week vacation or whatever things, it's spring break, I can get away, Nah, why, what do you mean get away? Well, I get away because I got bills to pay. Yeah, you got bills to pay. Why? Because you became a slave to the debtor. You became the servant to the creditor. And oftentimes, you were coerced into things based on the social fabric and the messengers of mediocrity that said you don't really exist. You haven't come into full being until you have this stuff. Well, those are decisions you can make. But those 4 points are really, 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 really important. I mean, they just are, right? The taxes are indeed heavy, but we have others, right? Our idleness. Right? We get taxed twice as much because of that, how we're not using our time. Our pride. How am I going to be perceived? I can't do that. I can't do that, right? And our folly. Diligence is the mother of good luck. Yeah. Pay attention. Do the thing. Know where you are and where you're going. Drive thy business. Not let the business drive you. You drive the business. And 4th, the principles of not being a slave to debt, not being a servant to the creditor, okay? To really reject that chain, okay? Be industrious and free. Be frugal and free. But by God, be free. Okay, that's it. From this little park. Got a little red squirrel over there. There it goes. Right, everybody. Take care. Be well. Bye-bye.